All right, today we're going to do writing equations of piecewise functions. So yesterday we graphed equations, so now we're going to go back and write the equations. So let's just review the two forms to write an equation of a line in. We have slope-intercept form, which we're probably most familiar with. It's y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. And then point slope form, which may or may not be familiar to you. Point slope form is y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x sub 1. So you might have seen that one before, or maybe not. It's not as common, but we do use it once in a while. M is still the slope, and then x1 and y1 is a point on the line. Sometimes it's easier to use one or the other, depending on the type of situation that you're looking at. Both would be acceptable. All right, so let's look at example 1. So the first thing that I like to do, similar to when we graphed it, I like to split it into two sections because we really have two equations. And then once I get the equation for each line, then I'll put it together in piecewise form. So I look at where is my domain split. So where are the lines going in different directions? And it looks like it's at when x is equal to -1 right here. So I'm going to have to the left, I have the closed circle, and we're going to the left of -1. So that is when x is less than or equal to -1. So that's my left side. That's the line that I have highlighted here in yellow. X is less than or equal to -1. Then we have this line, and we're going to the right of -1, and it's an open circle, so that's where it's going to be x is greater than -1. So we have those two lines there. All right, so for each line, you're going to need to find the slope and the y-intercept to write the equation of the line. So I'm going to start with the one I highlighted in yellow. So to find the slope, I'm going to pick 2 points on the line, so maybe this one, and then remember that slope is rise over run. So I'm going to find the rise over run. So if you go up when finding slope, that's +1. If you go to the right, that's +3. Or if you look from right to left, this line is going up. It has a positive slope. So it's a positive slope of 1/3. Next, I need to find the y-intercept. Notice that technically this line is not crossing the y-axis in my picture, so I'll need to find where it crosses the y-axis. Sometimes you can continue the line, so up 1 to the right 3, and continue the line, and you'll be able to find the y-intercept. Unfortunately, this one does not cross at an exact point like -1, -2, and so I will need to do some algebra to find what that point is. So I'm looking for what is this y-intercept right here. So I'm going to start with the general equation y equals mx plus b. And so far I know that the slope is 1/3. So I have y equals 1/3 x plus b. And now I need to solve for b. So what else do I know given my picture? I know that a point on the line, like if I look at this point right here, that is on my line, is at -1, -1. So I can take that -1, -1, and I know that that is an xy coordinate. So I can use that to solve for b. So I'm going to plug in -1 for y, and I'm going to plug in -1 for x. So now I have an equation with just one variable, and then I'm going to finish solving that for b. So I'm going to multiply -1/3 times, or 1/3 times -1 is -1/3. Then to solve for b, I'm going to have to add 1/3 to each side. And -1 plus 1/3 is 2/3 equals b. So b equals 2/3. So my equation for that line would be y equals 1/3 x plus 2/3. Now I'm going to do the other side. So that's the line that I have highlighted in blue. So same thing, I need to find the slope and I need to find the y-intercept. If you look at this line going from left to right, it is going downhill, so this will have a negative slope. If you find rise over run, so I'm going to pick 2 points, maybe those 2 points, and it's down 1 to the right 1, so that's -1 over 1, -1 over 1, or a slope of -1. And then the y-intercept is given to me here. It's where it crosses the y-axis, which is the vertical axis, which is at +1. So then I can write the equation to that line, which would be y equals -1 x plus 1. All right, so we have each line, the equation for each line, and we have the domain figured out. So now we need to write it in piecewise form. So I'm going to do that off to the side here because I ran out of room. So f of x equals, or y equals, whichever one. So I have this first line here, 1/3 x plus 2/3, and that one was if x was less than or equal to -1. So I'm putting it in that piecewise form now. Then the other side was -1x plus 1 if x is greater than -1. And we have both sides, and that is my final answer in piecewise form. Okay, remember that's kind of a lot, so if you need to pause and re-watch that and just listen, that's a good idea. You wrote it down, now just go back and watch me do it, and sometimes that's kind of helpful to just listen and pay attention instead of trying to get it all down. Let's do the next one. So kind of the same idea. I'm going to split this up into where the domain is. So I have right here, that's where x equals +1. To the left, I have an open circle. To the left is when it's less than, because the numbers on the x-axis, like this is -10, is less than 1 at that point. So when I'm going to the left, it's open circle, so just less than -1. And then the other line is going to the right. This is +10. Well, 10 is greater than 1. It's a closed circle, so this side's going to be x is greater than or equal to 1. So I have those two sides. So this one's greater than or equal to 1. This is x is less than 1. Same idea, we have to find the slope and the y-intercept for each so that we can write the equation of the line. So I'm going to just work from the left first. I might have to zoom in a little bit here so I can pick 2 points on the line. I'm just going to pick that one and that one. So it looks like up 3 to the right 3. Well, 3 over 3 gives me a slope of 1. And then the y-intercept is given here. If I count down from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, -4. So the equation of this line is y equals 1x minus 4, or just x minus 4. On the other side, I have a slope of, 1, 2, 3 over 1, up 3 over 1. So slope of 3. Y-intercept. So let's see if I can work backwards and find the y-intercept. So down 3 over 1, it does give me a y-intercept. It meets exactly at 0. So this one I was able to find the y-intercept using the slope and kind of working backwards. So I don't have to use the solving method that we did in the last one because it crossed at an exact point. So this one would be y equals 3x plus 0, or just y equals 3x. So now I have both. Let's put it in piecewise form. So f of x equals, I'm fine if you do y equals as well. The first one was x minus 4, and that was if x was less than -1. The other equation was y equals 3x if x is greater than or equal to 1. Notice that when you put it in piecewise form, the y equals or the f of x equals is right here. On the right side of the brackets, you do not put the y equals again. All right, so this one looks like we're at x equals -1 again here. This one has an open circle going to the left, so that's less than, x is less than -1. This one is a closed circle, and it's going to the right, so x is greater than or equal to -1. So we have x is less than -1 and greater than or equal to -1. Slope and y-intercept here. Let's see, we got a point here, so up 3 to the right 2, it looks like. Up 3 to the right 2. 3 over 2. Y-intercept, up 3 to the right 2. You know, it's going to be hard to tell where that is crossing. So I'm going to need to solve for my y-intercept. So I'm going to start with y equals 3/2 x plus b. Then I'm going to take a point on the line. So you can use any point you want. I always like, if I have a point that has a 0 in it, that it's easy to plug in. So I'm going to pick this point down here on the x-axis, which would be 1, 2, -3, 0. And I'm going to plug in -3 for x and 0 for y. So 0 equals 3/2 times -3 plus b. Take a fraction times a whole number. You have to put the whole number over 1 and then multiply. It's top times top over bottom times bottom. So 3 times 3 is -9, and 2 times 1 is 2. So 9/2. So then to get b by itself, you have to add 9/2 to both sides, and b equals 9/2, which is really, that's 4.5 if you want to work with it in a decimal instead. Now the last one was 2/3, so you know that's 0.6 repeating, so it really doesn't work very nicely to put that in our equation. So I prefer the fractions. It's more of an exact answer, but technically 9/2 and 4.5 are both exact. So your equation for this one would be 3/2 x plus 9/2 for that side. On my other side, m equals and b equals. So here I have a horizontal line. So rise over run, well, I have a rise of 0 and a run of 1. Well, 0 over 1 is 0. A horizontal line, the flat lines, that's like the ground, it has no slope. Slope of 0, or it has the slope of 0, not no slope. And then the y-intercept is at -1. It's crossing the y-axis right there at -1. So this one is 0x's minus 1. It's an equation of y equals just -1. So then putting that into function form, piecewise, the top would be 3/2 x plus 9/2, and that was if x was less than -1. And the other one would just be -1 if x is greater than or equal to -1. So you get the horizontal line slope of 0. All right, we're going to do one more. I know that this is probably getting to be a lot, so if you wanted to pause the video now and try a couple on your own, that's a good idea, or you can keep following along. If you think you got it and you don't need this example, that's great too. This one is 3 parts, so I thought it would be good to kind of show you what that looks like. So here we have 3 pieces of this piecewise. So from right here is at x equals -2. So from the left of that, you have x is less than -2. And then here we have another piece, and that one is at 1, 2, 3. We have x is greater than or equal to 3. And then we have this middle piece, which is kind of sandwiched between here and here. So that one is going to be a compound inequality, and I'm going to write that down here. It's between -2 and 2. So x is between -2 and 2. It's an open circle at 2, so x is less than 2, but it's greater than or equal to -2. So you read that from the inside out. X is greater than or equal to -2, and x is less than 2. It's an and compound inequality. When you write a compound inequality, the inequality signs always have to face the same direction. So I always start with the right side. All right, so we have three sections. So x is less than -2. We have x is between -2 and 2. And then we have x is greater than or equal to 3. So the very far one, we have a slope of, let's see here, we got a point down here, it crosses exactly, and then the point up here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 5/3. And then if we go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, I don't think it's going to cross in a nice place. We're going to have to solve for that y-intercept there. So let's plug in y equals 5/3 x plus b. And let's pick a point on the line. How about we use the point that was given, which was -2, 2. So if I pick the point -2, 2, that was that open circle there. That's an xy point. So plugging in 2 for y and 2 for -2 for x. 2 equals, that's going to be -2 over 1 times 5/3 would be -10 over 3 plus b. Adding 10/3 to both sides would be, now feel free to use your calculator here. You certainly can add 2 and 10/3 with your calculator. Desmos is a great one for that. No judgment if you want to add a whole number and a fraction. I'm just going to change 2 is the same thing as 6/3 because you need a common denominator when you're adding fractions. So 6/3 plus 10/3, it'll be 16/3 equals b. All right. And then put that back up in here. So if you do use a calculator to find that, it's going to give you in decimal form. So you will need to, convert that back to fraction form with your calculator, which is very doable. So this side will be 5/3 x plus 16/3. Especially with thirds, that's going to be a repeating decimal, and we don't want to put a repeating decimal into an equation. It's just we can't put that in as an exact answer then. All right, the middle one is a horizontal line. So we know that the slope is 0, and then our y-intercept is where it crosses here. So 1, 2, 3 at +4. So that one has an equation of y equals 4. So that one is pretty easy. And then the far one looks like it's going downhill, so we're going to have a negative slope. And rise over run tells me that's going to be down 2 over 1, so -2 for the slope. Let's see if I can work backwards to find where it crosses the y-axis. So I'm going to go up 2 to the left, up 2 to the left, up 2 to the left. It's off the graph, but it does cross at an exact point. It's going to be at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's going to be at 7. So then this one has a equation of -2x plus 7. All right, so I'm going to shorten that up. Putting this all together, so we have 3 pieces this time. So f of x equals, making your brackets. The first one was 5/3 x plus 16/3, and that was if x was less than -2. The middle one was just y equals 4. That was if x was between -2 and 2. And the last one was -2x plus 7 if x was greater than or equal to 3. And that's putting it all together there. Okay, so that's all my examples for you. So you have a couple that I want you to try on your own, and I've tried to break it up for you and show you what I'm looking for. So let me know how that goes, and I will see you in class shortly.